Hey, so this is Ben, and I'm just going to be looking at some of your games today. We're going to be looking at wins and losses, and hopefully it'll help you out a little. Let's get started. This looks like a game against a 1788 Bjorn, and I like to press it on autoplay slow. I'm not going to stop, I'll just watch the video and do some commentary as we go along. There will be silences, but I'll make notes of the most important parts. Let's see. Your opponent's opening with an early fianchetto, and you seem to have some sort of London reverse system going on, which is good. You get your bishop outside the pawn train before you play e6. It's always good. Now in early h6 here, a little defensive, but I can understand why you want to create a little room for your bishop to move back to h7, or also prevent him from pinning you with bishop g5. Now c6 here, one idea might be taking c4, the other might be playing just for a really solid d5, just holding it down. Now when he advances to c5 here, that's a mistake for him. He doesn't want to do that. He wants to keep the tension. You miss an opportunity to play a5 here. a5 is almost a must on that last move to break up his pawn chain. He can't play a3 because the rooks would be facing each other. So a5 was something to think about there. But you continue forward, just developing the knight. Nothing too wrong with that. Bishop e7 seems to be one idea. Rook b8. Not exactly sure what that accomplishes. Now your a7 and c6 pawns are hanging, but queen c7 falls to bishop f4, which it seems like we're about to go down. Much better would have been something like queen c8. And if you have to give up the a7 pawn, then rook a8 is really good there. His queen looks like it would be trapped. So queen c8. Whoa, I don't even know what's going on now. Yikes. So we'll just go back through that a little bit faster now. Okay, that didn't work. So I like d5, I like knight f6, I like bishop f5 because then you can play e6 and your bishop's out. c6 holds the center nicely, so there's nothing wrong with that. c5 is really bad. You break open his pawn center with a5 there. When he plays like that, just bishop e7 and castle. But rook b8 is not good, and then queen c7 just adds insult to injury. Alright, that was the first game I looked at. Next, we have a lot of leaving games and aborting games. Not you, your opponents. I think this is only 8 moves, so we don't have to look at that one. Alright. In this game, you are white against someone lower rated, a 1600. You open with e4. That's what I do also. Knight f3. d6 here, and then you play the right move, which is d4, blowing open the center. If you haven't seen the Opera House game in the Philidor defense, that's something to look up. The Opera House game is maybe one of the most famous chess games ever played, and it's really good. It's between Paul Morphy and the Duke. So bishop g5 just invites him to play knight f6 and develop a piece. I probably would have played knight c3 instead of bishop g5, and now you're just inviting him to play something like f5 or d5 and blow open the center. That e4 pawn is a little weak. But he's just wasting time with pawn moves. That's pretty bad for him. You're playing good developmental moves. So I can't really complain. You're definitely winning this. Definitely playing well so far. h3, a little passive. You seem to like these h pawn pushes in defense, but I would have preferred to see bishop c4 or a4. But h3 is not bad. It's not bad. I guess if you make like 7 pawn moves, you have time to make one, right? Queen e2 is jumping out at me here, but you exchange. I think queen e2, then bishop b3 would have been one idea. D5 is now screaming out to me because of the light squares. Knight h5. It's a threat, I guess. Knight g6. So queen g4, coming in on those light squares. Good, nice, very nice. Knight g6, followed by queen f5. That has to be winning. Because if he plays knight e7, you just take e7 and play queen takes h7. Queen f5 here. Queen f5. Nope. Okay, d5's okay. It just wasn't winning right away, but you're looking at e6 really nicely. Okay, I like it. Opening up the position. I'd castle soon. I'd castle kingside, actually. F5 here kind of closes it up, but it's good. Alright, I think we're losing our edge a little bit because we're trading when we're on the attack. And when we're on the attack, we don't want to trade too much. We want to keep those pieces on the board. Castle queenside now, maybe? Or rook f1. But what about like queen g6? Can he get away with that? Alright, he plays the defensive move. Okay. So we have a lead in development. Queen e6 to get that d6 pawn would have been good. Queen e6 there. I have a few things to say when we look at this game faster that I haven't already said. And yeah, we're just dropping our lead now because he can castle and play like g5 eventually after he moves his knight back to d7. Oh, he's coming over to the queen side? Is he going to play like b5? Yikes. Yikes. Oh, and you resigned because we dropped the knight, I think. Oh no. Oops, we want to go faster. Okay, I loved the opening, and your opponent's wasting a ton of time. Bishop g5, I think knight c3 is better there. But you play it now, which is good. a4 or h3 is okay. Queen e2 there. d5, knight h4 is okay. Queen g4 is a really good move, especially because it eyes c8. And now in this position, you just have such a grip. f5 there. Queen e6 hitting d6. There are a lot of instructive moments in this game. And if you wanted to play knight a4, you could have probably played at any move until he played queen e8. So let's just look at some of the more instructive moments in this game. Queen e2. And then you can maybe castle queenside, but b5 is a little scary, I guess. So what you did was fine. Queen g4 is a really good move because it eyes c8 and g6. All right. I think we learned some things, hopefully. Next game. "37 moves. That's a lot of moves. This is one that you were white and you won. Oh, we have no analysis on the right side this game, which is totally fine. I wasn't looking at it too much. Knight c6, bishop b5, so you play the Roy Lopez. That's good. kind of what I play. I play everything though. D6, D4, or castles. Castles. Bishop D7. C3, okay, you're preparing a big D4 break. Getting a big center, I like that. Here we see another H3. It's good in the Roy Lopez, so I understand it because you're avoiding bishop g4 after b5. I really like that your bishop could just come back to c2, not just b3. That can be useful often. d4, and d4 instead of d3, you're really, really trying to blow him off the board, I guess, that's a good way to play the Roy Lopez if you can get away with it. And in this case, he's playing pretty passively. So I think this is all good. Bishop c2, like I said, awesome. Knight b4 does hit the bishop, so it would be nice if our knight was on c3 or d2, because then we could drop it back to b1. That's something that if I look back at this game again, I would definitely notice. Is there any way we could have gotten our knight off that square sooner? And d2 is kind of where it belongs, by the way, because then it hops to f1 and g3. On c3, it's just open to b4, getting hit on b4 by pawn to b4. So, yeah. Ooh, e5 is a little bit iffy. You need that pawn to defend d5. Right? I mean, what if he just plays b4 here? Ooh, b4 was better. Then d5 is hit 3 times and defended 0. Yeah, I like it. I like the aggression, bishop g5, but you're going to lose that pawn. I think rook d1. I wonder... I just don't know what you could have done in that spot. I think you needed to not push that pawn earlier. f3 is pretty weakening, but it does guard it. Maybe f4? Maybe f4 was better last move. Is he going to give up his queen? No, check. Oh, dude. Queen f2 is pretty much unnecessary. If he doesn't take e5 here, okay, good. How do you win this? I'm happy you do, but it's just a little scary. Queen g3? Okay, hitting f7. He needs to defend that. Hitting your rook. So the nice, like, double purpose, hitting your rook and defending f7. He's playing pretty well. Playing decently. Guard c7, passive though. Very passive. Where are you coming? You coming back to g4? Rook to g4? Yeah, h6 just invites rook g4. It just encourages you to play bishop takes h6. Let's see. Queen c1. Whoa. Rook takes. Rook, queen takes c5. You're showing a lot of heart with how you're trying to attack his king. I just don't know if you're going to be able to get through. Rook d4, rook d7 is is probably what I would play here. Rook d4 and just trying to crush on that d file, man. I don't know what else you have. You can just check him. You could just check him, but I guess, yeah, I guess what's about to happen is like bishop d4, queen g6. Oh, is he gonna go back to like h8? Okay. Oh, and then you win the rook. Oh, the ending is nice. The ending's nice there. Yeah, you played that really well. Um, I think there's definitely an argument for something like rook d4 a few moves ago. But the check and then his open exposed king, whereas yours was actually more closed off than his. Does he resign here? Like, what can he do? Okay, let's go through that fast. I like your opening. Let's see if we could maybe play d4 earlier, but you like building it up. There's nothing wrong with that. Rook e1 guards the pawn, bishop back. Then you play your h3 move. That's good in the Roy Lopez. d4 takes. Oh, so there might not have been a good moment for that. Maybe you come back to b3 there. I'd probably come back to bishop b3 after knight b4 just to hold it, just to hold the knight. You can't play e5 here. You drop the pawn. Bishop b4, bishop g5 shows some good initiative. We lose the pawn, rook to d1, and then check, back, takes, rook d7. It's uneven, but I think you are a little worse here. And then rook d4, I like that you're rerouting the rook when you couldn't get in. You're trading. Queen d2 threatens queen h6. And then I guess you're trying to pile up on his king side somehow. King f2 brings the king in, so you're using all your pieces. And then, okay, we're going to look at the last few moves. King f2 is a great move, I think, because you're using your rook, bishop, and queen already, and the only piece that's not involved is your king. A lot of people are scared to use their king, but you aren't, which is good. h4, I'm not sure we're actually going to break through, but it works out. Now, maybe there's an argument for him taking with his h-pawn, because your queen and rook take a little while to get over there. But maybe if he plays h takes, you just play rook g3, rook h3. But then maybe he plays bishop c8 to defend against that. So I think there's an argument for that. But he plays f takes, then you play queen d3. And here I do think I was mistaken. I was like, how are you going to get in? But bishop d4 is just going to be pretty darn good. That being said, king g8. I mean, you're winning this, I'm pretty sure, but I think he went the worst route. Like, he gave up his rook here. He can try to play king g8, and then queen g6, let's say king f8. And you're actually probably still winning that pretty easily, but it's just not mate immediately. All right, maybe one more. Let's find one where you lose. So you're black. Oh, I'm all about the King's Indian. I'm just looking at this graph. You know, you really stuck with this one, despite being in a losing position for a long time. That's good, though, when I was teaching little kids to play chess. like I was teaching it through a company, and we never let them resign. Like they weren't allowed to resign because you can never win if you just resign. So yeah, and then now I'm playing like 2000s, and they just drop a pawn and they resign. It's a totally different mindset. E5, D5. Okay, he plays an early D5, which my immediate thought is knight A6, knight C5 here, or A5, A5, knight A6, or A5, knight D7. You just go with knight D5. Okay, you're playing it exactly how I would. I'm looking at the moves. Now, when they play that, I can play knight G4 also. Knight G4 is good. Queen D2, that's not good. I think you want to just chop that bishop, which you do. So I'm impressed so far. I think you're playing this one really well. Good, and A5 is clamping down B4, so your knight's hitting E4, F5, F4. Yeah, dude, this is this Indian system is going well for you. Like, I would consider playing this as white against the French and Karo Khan, which I just mentioned to someone else actually on Reddit. Okay, I see you play Queen D7, which is not what I would play. What's the computer say? The computer says Bishop F6. I guess you're... Yeah, I'm not sure what... Maybe it was a mouse slip? Just not exactly sure there. So he's going to play B4. You need to play A4 here. A4 was the move to prevent B4. The computer said Bishop D7 backline, but I think A4 is a good move to prevent B4 from booting your knight. So now it's hard because you like kind of lost your kingside attack. Whoa. Yeah, just knight takes, you know. It's good if pawn takes, but what about just knight takes? And yeah, these are just passive moves now. Let's go back soon. I'm going to wait till you lose a lot of material in a second. I can see on this chart. But we're going to look at this again faster from the beginning because I think you had some opportunities. I'm really pleased with how you played the opening, by the way. And I like that the knight can maybe hop to F4, or the rook can come to F4. I guess the rook cannot come to F4. Because the knight is trapped. Yes. Alright, so you're killing it with the King's Indian. Definitely something I'd consider playing. And as black, maybe the perk? I'm not sure what all your openings are. Because you have a good feel for this type of position where he plays D5 early. And then that's good. You get that bishop off the board. F5. Now, F4, I guess, isn't necessary. But why not, right? Alright, that was... So, instead of F4, we can consider keeping the tension. Maybe with B6 or bishop D7. But I like F4. Why not? Then he plays Queen F3. And here, like, this is kind of what you want out of this opening as black. You have your really long pawn chain. You've taken his dark squared bishop. His pieces are on the defensive, and you have a lock on the queen side, so it's time to do some work on the king side. gonna be difficult to get in g4 because after you play g5, you can't play h5 unless you play bishop d7, bishop e8. So that's definitely something I'm considering is bishop d7, bishop e8. But you play g5 right away, and then he plays queen h5. And they say bishop f6 is good here instead of queen d7. Yeah, you want to play bishop d7 at some point. And h3, queen e7, a3, rook f7, yeah, bishop d7 there. And then bishop e8. So I think you get the idea, because if you bring your bishop back to e8 and then you can play like h5 and maybe get in g4, maybe not, but you just need to get that bishop into the game somehow, and it's not doing anything where it's at. So I think those are most the things I wanted to look